Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we have another review and it's an IEM review, and that is this IEM right here on my desk. As you can see, this is Tangzu Wan'er, and this is kind of have been a hyped IEM. It has been out for around I'm gonna say like 2 years for now, and it's kind of been overhyped. There's a lot of like raging reviews about how great this IM is, how excellent this sound is. Many call it the budget king, and today we're gonna get into this review. We're gonna talk about the sound signature. We're gonna describe the sound. We're gonna also do some comparisons with some other competitive and very good IEMs in this price range. This is a $20 IEM as well. So, without any further ado, let's get into this review and talk about this IEM. First of all, the box. This is the box that this thing comes with. It's a really beautiful box. There's this nice artwork on it. And if I turn it around, there's no frequency response graph, but I want to mention a couple of properties that are on here. First of all, it's a 10mm dynamic driver, single dynamic driver, which might not be important for a consumer, but nevertheless. But more importantly, the impedance of 20 ohms and sensitivity of 107 decibels is what I want to emphasize and mention over here. Why? Because, well, as always on this channel, whenever I do some IEM reviews, I want to make sure that every question is answered. So what I always do with this thing, I did some A/B testing, because there's a lot of people, and especially people that just want to get into this hobby. They ask that if they need a special equipment or gear to drive, specifically if they need a special DAC count to be able to power these things. As you saw with the properties, no, it's a very easy to drive. You can definitely drive it, and there's plenty of volume and power left for you. I use like a simple Apple dongle with my phone. It's pretty fine. But I didn't just stop there. Also, I did some A/B testing, because I believe some IEMs do improve much more using proper amplification. So let's see if this thing does as well. So I did some A/B testing. As always, I use this thing. This is a simple Apple dongle, $10. You can like substitute it with other $10 dongle DACs like this. There are some good options. And this is a more powerful dongle DAC amp. This is Moondrop Down Pro. And as you can see, and also I didn't just stop there. I wanted to include the sourcing in it as well. So I used this thing with like a simple, something that everyone would use, like a Spotify streaming service, and nothing fancy. But I use this thing with my own library of FLAC files, the highest quality of files that I could find for my music. Same songs that I've known for years. I know them by heart. Same versions. I used this thing with the different source, and used this thing with the highest source that I could find. So, was there any noticeable difference on improvement? When should you consider buying something like this? The answer is a resounding no. Definitely, you don't need any improvements. I didn't really hear any improvements, and I had to really listen for it. There were like very minimal improvement using this thing and my FLAC files around the edges of some instruments that I had to really listen for it. And you have to quantify it again. It's around 5-6%, but it's very minimal and little. If you don't do just immediately plug this and plug that in and just do some like intense analyzing, you cannot definitely tell the difference. It's not a quality improvement that you're gonna notice, and I'm not sure even if it's real. It might be delusion and cope. It's so small. So definitely save your money, especially if you want to improve. Invest any money that you have and you want to spend on the DAC cam and put it on your IEM. The improvement you're getting there is much more. Now that that's out of the way, let's get back into talking about the accessories. So I showed you the box, and let's show you the accessories that this thing comes with. This IEM did not come with a carrying bag as they always do, but it came with a cloth in the box. It's a nice cloth. It's soft and very thin and light. I sometimes use it to clean my glasses actually. So yeah, I don't know why you would need a cloth with your IEMs, but nevertheless it's here. But more importantly, what it did come with is a lot of options for ear tips. Oh, missed one. There you go. And as you can see, there's a lot of ear tips on this thing, and it's two different sets, two different variations of them. So if I put them apart like this, you can see there are two different types of ear tips. It's this black ones and it's this clear, semi-clear ones with colored cores. And not only that, it's two different variations, but this of this type, it has like four different sizes. They usually come with small, medium, and large sizes, but with this thing, it has the small ones, red ones, the medium ones, which are these black ones that are pre-installed on the IEM that comes with, and there's a white ones which is size between medium and large, and there's the yellow ones which are the large size. So I really appreciate that. For me, the pre-installed black cores, this really would fit me really well. And not only that, I tried the white ones as well, and the white ones really fit me well as well too. So all these tips really good fitting IEMs, ear tips, sorry. And I see unfortunately a lot of like, I've seen one reviewer saying that these collection of ear tips are not good quality and are not good, but I really have to disagree with that. These are really good like ear tips, and not only because they fit very well, they fit the IEM very well, and they fit my ears very well as well too. And I've definitely had other IEMs with stock ear tips that it comes with that really had not good of a seal and not good of a comfort. Was like bad, very bad comfort. So this is definitely not the case over here. All good fitting, comfortable like ear tips. And okay, let's talk about like how these different ear tips affect the sound. Did it affect the sound? Not that much. I have to say, like interesting thing that I learned about this IEM. I used this ear tips. I tried this like the white ones again. I tried this black ones. And not only that, I tried my other ear tips that I have. I use my Spinfit W1 ear tips, Duno SNS tips. Those are very high quality, good ear tips. And it did not change the sound signature really that much or anything at all, right? So that's really interesting point about this thing. And as you can see, I still just keep using them with the stock ear tips because the stock ear tips fit me very well, very comfortable, and the sound really good too. So I see no reason for you to upgrade on other ear tips for some other, just unlike some other IEMs, right? Very good selection of ear tips. So was there any difference between these and these ear tips? No. Again, this IEM doesn't get affected by the ear tips that you use. But I have to say, I believe because this style, as you can see, the difference between these styles, these black ones are slightly like longer and they have a more of a bullet shaped type style to them, and they are less wider compared to these things, which are definitely shorter but wider and have like a slightly larger bore inside of them. So these things I believe fit into my ear a little bit deeper, and that because of that it gave me like a more intense sound compared to these things being a little bit more relaxed and airier. So again, but that was again a small difference, right? Okay, so it's more of like a fit issue. So let's see whatever fits you better, and it's gonna sound very similar. It wasn't that much of a different sound. So that's that from the accessories and the ear tips. So I'm gonna put this aside, and we're gonna talk about the next part. So if I put this again over here, all right. Now let's talk about what I believe to be the weakness of this IEM. And that unfortunately is the design and the cable over here. Yeah, as you can see, like it's staying right here. You can see this is not a very good cable. This is actually a very bad cable. Let me show you like why. It feels really cheap. It has this cheap plasticky feeling to it. It's braided, but it's like this very tight braid, as you can see. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence. It definitely feels cheap, and it shouldn't be the case because I've seen other IEMs in this price range have much better cables. And even if you can see like the behavior is here is not very well, right? And even if you can get ahead and live with that thing, I mean, it doesn't at least look so bad, all right? You can definitely live with this thing. I mean, it's not best behaving, but it again doesn't get tangled that much. It could have been worse, I guess. So, but what I really hate, and I have to mention about it, is these connectors. These are horrible, horrible connectors, and I believe they are called like QDC connectors, or I mean, I'm not sure. But as you can see, these are 2-pin connectors, but it has this like recession inside this shell that has this weird shape that has to fit this part of the like the shells itself. So this connector is not really good at all. First of all, this is not a standard kind of connector. So if you want, like if your cable breaks and you want to replace the cable, you can't even do that. There's not a lot of connectors that have this kind of style to them. At least not a lot of good quality ones, right? You might have a harder time finding a replacement for this cable compared to other like standard flush 2-pin cables. So this is not a good thing about this IEM. And also, like for myself, like a lot of times I use this thing and I wrap it. Sometimes this thing just comes flying out because this connection is not very really snug, so it's just slowly starts to like fall out, disconnected out of the shells. So yeah, that's one thing I saw sometimes. Like I don't know why once every like 2 or 3 days that happens. But again, I mean, more importantly, a lot of other like complaint that I've seen on Reddit, people show pictures and say that these connectors like break inside of this part over here, and that's not really good. So like, how are we gonna fix that? So yeah, I really don't like this cable and especially these connectors too. And you can see this like ear hook part is really stiff too. I mean, you could, I guess, like use a heater to like make it fit better and fix it, but yeah, that's a lot of like trouble that I don't want to go through. So yeah, the cable on this string really not that great. um, Sorry, let me. But what about the shells itself? The shells itself, again, I mean, it looks good. Okay, let me say that this is one of the best looking IEMs in this price range. Again, it's a beauty of a subjective issue. Beauty is a bit of a subjective issue, but I believe these are really good looking shells, and this color is the black color. I didn't have a choice when I went to get the colors, but it comes with like a blue and a white and a green colors. I really like the green. That's my favorite color. But again, that's the only choice I had, so I went with the black, and still the black looks really good too. As you can see, this has this beautiful design on the back, and this has this semi-transparent shell over here. And as you can see, here's the driver inside of it. Well, as long as we're here, let me show you the nozzle. It's a very standard nozzle. It's not too wide, it's not too deep. It's definitely not giving me any problem or headache. It's definitely on the shorter side of other IEMs that I had tried. It feels really well. And also, while we're talking about that, I want to mention, like, as you can see, the shape of this shell. It's a very good shell. As you can see, there's a little bit of like an ear like hook over here, like not a hook, like a wing over here, and it fits really well in your IEM and sits like flush in your ear. So it's a very good fitting IEM at least. But the quality of this shell is not so great. I don't know if it's like it still feels like a clear plastic, but the build quality is not so great. I've seen posts, a lot of posts out of the older, like a $20 IEMs that I see. I see a lot of posts with these things, the shells breaking, something breaking with them. So it's not really the best build quality compared to the competitors. But it looks good and it definitely fits really well. It's not too deep fitting. It's actually very shallow of a dip, shallow of a fit compared to other ones. Yeah, and it sits flush in your ear. You can definitely slip with these things. Not that I can, but a lot of people can. So yeah, it's the shells. That's the shells. There's not a best build quality with the cable and the shells. I've seen some breaking issues, especially with the connectors. The connectors is the biggest part. So I'm gonna give it this wrap. And yeah, I believe that's the weakness of this IEM. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the next part. And I believe, as you can see, like, look, I'm just gonna forget about it. And we're gonna talk about the sound signature over here. How does the sound signature sound? Alright, so there's a lot of people out there on the reviews that I've seen that describe the sound signature on this thing to be generally a mid-focused or mid-forward, vocal focused sound signature. And I have to like half kind of agree with that, because I've seen some other devices, some other earbuds that I've tested that are completely like a vocal specialists, alright? Like there's like Sennheiser HD6 series. Those are really like I would say vocal specialists. I have like Apple EarPods. Those are vocal specialists. They're really good in vocals, but not so great on other things, and they're like kind of sacrificing. And I don't want you to think that that is the case over here. Again, the vocals are the star of the show over here. They are very good, but it's not like that. It's sacrificing on other parts. Don't be mistaken that it's gonna be have a. And people when people say it has it's a vocal forward sound, it makes you think that the vocals are gonna be very forward in your ear and your in your mix. And when I wanted to, before I tested these things, I heard that and I really wasn't a big fan of that because I don't want the vocals to be directly into my ear in my face. I've never been a big fan. I usually listen to more of instrumental songs. So I was not a fan of that. But when I heard it, that's not actually the case. The vocals are not that forward. They are the star of the show and they're very prominent in your mix, but they're not gonna like overstep their boundaries and like bleed into other music ranges and just become too much and overbearing. So the vocal quality is really good over here. Again, it's very light. There's no like dip in the lower mids. There is no like hunkiness. There's no shoutiness to it. It sounds really good. Sounds really clear and clean. And just like the other items in this price range, like I haven't heard anything to be really bad in the vocals. And definitely this is one of the best ones. Like, is it really? But there's a couple of things that help the vocals to shine more. And we're gonna talk about that next. Okay, what about the other parts of this your mix? As I said, the vocal is the most like forward thing in your IEM, in your music when you're listening in your mix. What is the next part? I would say that's the bass, and that's not like that bass is like pulled back and the vocals are the most forward. It's very closely. It just sits right behind the vocals, and the bass quality I think is really slept on over here. This is one of the best bass qualities I've heard in any IEMs in this price range. And I'm gonna talk about that, and that's gonna show more when I talk about comparisons, and I'm gonna compare it to other IEMs. But the bass quality is really good over here. It has a mix of sub bassy and mid bassy sound signature. The bass profile, it has good extension in the sub bass, but it's not overbearing sub bass that like the aggression and the punch gets missed and lost in your in the bass. It's not like that, and it's not overbearing a lot of mid like a like muddy powerful, punchy mid bass that has lacks the lingering effect of the sub bass. It has a good mixture of both of these things, and it's very balanced. And there's a good amount of it over here, and it shines a lot, but not because that there's a lot amount of it. There's other IEMs that have more bass quantity wise, but it shines here a lot, and that's because the way that this thing was overall balanced and tuned. And that's because of the next part, which I'm going to talk about now, and that is a treble. Treble here, as far as all the other IEMs, again, you're going to see in the comparisons and feel this more. But the treble over here is on the below the average side. It's slightly smooth and dull. It's not dull. It's slightly smooth treble. So it's definitely pulled back a little bit compared to other IEMs. It's not a V-shaped IEM. I would say generally this thing is more of a neutral IEM with a hint of warmth, right? It's a hint of warmness into this thing. And the treble is definitely on the like darker side. There's not a lot of treble, but it's good. There's a lot of like good like sense of the treble. There's a lot of good hi-hats and your snares. You can't hear it in your mix, but it sits behind those things. It sits in the middle of your mix. And it's really, you can hear it definitely. It's not like there's none of it. There's none of it. So there is treble, but it's not a treble that's gonna overstep boundaries, become too much. So it depends. If you're someone who's sensitive to treble, this is definitely the pick for you. It's a smooth treble that I really like. And like in the combination with the bass, that's like to just give this whole IEM like a sound signature of the clear, beautiful vocals and a warmth of the bass with it. And then there's some details of the treble to it too. So that's the general sound signature over here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else to mention about the sound signature that I didn't describe. Again, the treble is really good, and I really like this thing. It's definitely one of those tests that are on the relaxing side. If you want to put something in your ear for a long time and listen to a lot of music, and you don't want it to annoy you, the treble to become too much and fatigue you, this is definitely not a fatiguing sound. It's a very relaxing sound. It's very comfortable. The bass is really satisfying and good, and the vocals are not sacrificed at all. Vocals are very beautiful. There is no any bleeding between the vocals, mid, and your um, and your bass as well too. It's a very good balance of a tuning. So let me try to give this another wrap. And now we're gonna talk about some comparisons at last. And I'm gonna talk about, I bring up, let me give you, so here's the wrap. I hope it stays, alright? So here's two other comparisons IEM that I'm gonna bring up that I own currently. This is the Truth Ear Gate. Let me put this up. This is the Truth Ear Gate. Again, another $20, maybe like 18. And this is Moondrop Chew 2. So I also have heard, I don't own the 702, but I also heard it. So I'm gonna talk about that in this comparisons, but I don't own it right now. I don't have it. So, but generally, when I don't mention it, so have that in mind that that set is very closely similar to this one, Moondrop Chew 2. So anything I compare between the sounds between these things, that's very similar to this thing, but that one has better quality of mids, and it's a bit of a better resolution. It's more resolving. It's a better quality with this thing, but the toss up between this and that is that this one has better build quality compared to that one. So putting this aside, let's talk about first these two IEMs, which I believe are the most similar ones, especially in this price range. These are really, really both really good IEMs. And if you think the vocals and the mids are really good here, this thing gives it a good competition between these two. Again, the mids and the vocals are between this Truth Ear Gate is really good over here as well too. But if I describe the sound signature over here, neutral with a hint of warmthness and a little bit of a smoother treble, this thing goes the complete other way. This is neutral with a hint of a brightness and a boosted treble slightly, and lower, like a more smoother bass over here. So it's a different tint between this thing and that thing over here. It's warm and this is brightness. But again, I mention this every time, but when I do this IEM like comparisons, especially in this price range, I say the comparisons, but you have to keep in mind the differences are smaller than you might think. There's a lot of people just like to describe the sound signature between these things and say, you if you like a sound like that, go for this. You like a sound like that, go for that. But I want to say that the DNA of this sound signature of this all the IEMs, this price range, are very similar than they're different. They're like 80% similar, and they just slightly go for a different sound signature. You know, it's not that big of a difference, definitely. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be very much different. When I said this is neutral with a hint of warmthness and with a hint of brightness over here, I actually mean a hint. It's not that big of a difference. But again, there's the difference between these two. So if I want to compare these things, I want to say, okay, let's compare them. Let's say for treble wise, right? I would have to say this is the treble. This is the treble ranking over here. And this has the most amount of treble. There's a lot of treble, which gives this thing a lot of like feeling of liveliness and energeticness, sparkly sound compared to this thing, which is more of a relaxed. It's not like that it's bad, but it's more of a different like a flavor. It's more of a relaxing sound. The treble over here is very much in your ear and the most forward part of your mix. But with this thing, it's pulled back and it's really comfortable. So if you are sensitive, definitely this one is one to, if you're sensitive to treble, this is the one that you consider. But if you have the ear for it, this thing gives it a really, really good quality of liveliness, and it's really beautiful. It like gives it a more sense of also details as well, micro details as well with the treble. And what I do want to compare this time is between these two. These two might have a different, completely different sound signature, more prominent. And this thing again, neutral with a hint of warmthness, like a mid focused with a hint of warmthness. But this thing is totally different. It goes not the other direction, but it's more of a V-shaped sound signature, boosted bass and boosted treble over here. And the vocals are definitely not the focus on this IEM. It's pulled back in the middle. The most prominent parts are again bass and treble, but then after that, behind those two is the vocals. Again, vocals are again clear and good on this thing too, but again on this thing it shines more because of the other parts, right? Again, if you just in isolation compare the mids and the vocals between all these three, they're very similar, but it's because of the rest of the tuning that makes the vocals shine more over here. So these two very different. So if you just want something more energetic, you go for something like this, right? For something with a lot of boosted bass, with a lot of big bass on it, you go for something over here. But if you want something more of this relaxing, smoother sound, you go for over something like this, right? And I want to talk about I mentioned something about the bass between all these things, and that's the bass profile. So the bass with this thing is very, very sub-bassy. So if I have to like do a comparison between the bass amount, not what I prefer, but something like a bass head person would prefer, I think this is the ranking they would go for. This thing has a lot of bass on it, definitely the most amount of it on this table. Again, same thing with the 02. That IEM also has a lot of bass. This thing has a lot of bass to it, but it's a lot of like punchy and aggressive, rumbly bass to it. So it's a big amount and it's really rumbly. That's because of existence of the lot of mid bass over here, and it doesn't have that much of a sub bassy characteristics. It has a good extension, but the most of the bass you're hearing is the mid bass. And again, compared to other side of the spectrum over here, which is this thing. This thing again, this is the bass that I prefer a lot of times, and it's a lot of sub bass. It's very clean and analytical, but it's all sub bass. There's not that much of a mid bass at all, if anything at all. It's very clean, but it's not impactful. But it's very clean. You can follow the bass line, but it's just a clean and smooth treble. The clean and smooth bass line over here. So definitely it has this sub bassy profile over here compared to this mid bass profile over here, more of aggressiveness, punchy and rumbly one compared to this cleaner and lingering bass. None of them are the kind of bass that bleeds into the mid range and bothers you, definitely. But I put this here exactly because of that. Not only in the amount, this thing's in the middle between these things, but also the bass profile over here. As I mentioned and described earlier, this thing has a good characteristic of the same thing over here. It has a good sub bassy here that you can hear it, lingering amount of it that you can hear that stays with you and is satisfying. And also it has some of the punch and rumbliness and aggressiveness that it has over here. Not as much as this thing, but it has some of that DNA too. It sits in the cross between these two. It's a combination of these two profiles, and also the amount is between these two as well too, right? It's going with something very safe. And again, if someone that's like not sure like what kind of sound signature they like let's like forget about the accessories and the cable and the design, just based on sound signature, this is something that I would really recommend and suggest to people just go for it, especially if they don't know what they like. Because if they don't like this is the treble that's very like you can say like smooth and relaxed. It's not an offensive treble at all, so you're not risking anything by like going with a treble like this over here. And again, you don't know if you like a lot of bass or not, like just a small bass amount of bass. This is again sits in the middle. It's a very safe tuning and sound signature over here, and it's really good quality of it too. So these are going for something of like more of a specialist sound, like sound signature, you can say, right? More energetic, more clean and classic, you could say. But this thing sits in the middle. It's really good as well too. That's the difference between the sound signature of the bass and the treble I've compared. And just if I have to mention, if like with the mids, compare the mids between these IEMs as well, this would be the ranking that I have. The mids again, it could be a toss up for me between these two. The mids again over here are going because of the mix of the treble that's really good, exaggerated over here. I don't like to say exaggerated because of the treble being a good amount of it over here. Combination of the mids and the treble over here gives the sense of like a more of a liveliness feeling to your mids and your vocals. It makes it more lively and sparkly to it. That's the combination you're getting here. But the vocals over here have a quality because there's not a lot of treble to it. It's more smooth and more relaxed and works well with the combination of like a warmer sound of warmer vocals with the combination of that bass. So between, it's a toss up for me between these two. It depends on your preference. What kind of do you like? But if I have to say, like, I would give it a slight edge of the victory in the mids for this thing. It's just really good mids too. But don't be mistaken that these are bad mids as well. This sits in the middle. And again, the 02 would be something like around over here. That has a better mids than this thing. But again, yeah, that's the comparison that I had to make between all these things. I compared them in bass, mids, and the treble. And yeah, that's the general sound signature that I described with this thing. And that is the comparisons over here. So I believe this review is over. And that's it. So for conclusion, I definitely highly recommend this IEM. Again, it's a very safe tuning, and if you don't know what you like, and you don't care about the build quality, I would suggest for anyone just getting into this IEM hobby for go something like this, especially because of the treble. That's not a lot of it, and it's very safe treble, and the bass is it's not too much of it that you might regret it later, and there's not too little of it. It's a very safe tuning sound signature that you're gonna like, and I really recommend it. But again, the weakness on this thing over here is the build quality of it. If you want something that you want to last for a long time and you're worried, go for like something like the Chutu that has a metal shell that's like slightly smaller too. But the build quality and the cable is the bad part about this thing, the weakness about this thing. But yeah, that's that, and that's what you like describe with the like what you get between all these comparisons. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments. If you have something other IEMs that I missed to mention in this price range that you want me to compare, and you have any questions about the sound signature that I forgot to describe, or like you have specific questions, let me know and I'll answer you. And in conclusion, I give this IEM a hard recommendation. It's very good, and I want to give it a 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5 stars out of 5. It's a really good IEM, and until the next review, I'll see you later. Stay safe and goodbye.